Here we are back at Marathon in Lost Battles, and let's go straight into the Athenian turn 5. They've got 6 commands. They're pressing right up against this Persian army, and again it's just a question of deciding how to order the expenditure. I think we're just going to start here and attack into this zone for 2 commands, so let's do that. I'll spend our 2 commands, and then we have got a lead hoplite who's attacking into levy archers with a +3, and then we've got 4 spent hoplites who are attacking levies with a +1. So +3 on the first attack, that's a 6, +3 is 9. That requires an all-out attack, and hoplites must make an all-out attack if possible, so that is the final hoplite spent, and that causes a hit. Then we've got 4 attacks on +1, so we've got an 8, +1 is 9. That would normally require an all-out attack, but all the rest of the hoplites in here are spent, so that's no effect. The second is a 6, the third is a 5, and the fourth is a 7. And they've not been able to make a breakthrough here against these levy archers, who are holding out quite tenaciously, and all this group are now spent. That's quite dangerous. Okay, so for 1 command, the Athenians can activate this fresh hoplite over here in the corner. So they'll spend a command on that, and he's going to attack into the front here of this fresh lead archer, and sorry, he's going to attack into the flank of this group. And so he'll get +1 for being a lead unit, +1 for being a fresh lead hoplite, +1 for attacking levies, +1 for attacking the flank. So he's attacking on a +4. And he's got a 9. 9 + 4 is 13. And so he has beaten the required score by 4. He's +4 or above, and that does 2 hits. And because he's attacking levies, they don't get to distribute those between units. He just shatters this lead levy archer, and that prompts a new army morale check. So that guy goes on the shattered pile, and we get a new army morale check. D6 roll for the Persians, sorry, a D3 roll for the Persians to calculate their base army morale, and they've got a 2 this time. I shouldn't flip that over. So they've got a 2 base. That's kind of better for them. And then let's see what other modifiers come in here. They haven't had 4 units shattered. They're not outnumbered 2 to 1, but they are suffering from having 2 friendly centre tiles containing enemy units. So they're on a -1 for having so much of their centre, the centre of their territory occupied by Athenian enemy units. That's a -1. That puts them on a base 1. So then we have to check in this tile, because heavy infantry adjacent, heavy infantry are getting +1, so that would put them on 2, and then levies 1, spent 0. Okay, that's not good. So 0, the unit panics if another unit in its tile was shattered by the current unit's attack. Well, there was a unit just shattered in here, and that means that these 2 spent levy archers are going to panic and rout because their army morale is 2, 1 for the heavy occupation of their part of the battlefield by Athenians, and then their individual unit morale goes back up to 2 for being heavy infantry, but down to 1 for being spent, and down to 0 for being levies. And if your morale is 0 in a tile where something just got shattered or panicked, you yourself panic, and so both these units are routed. And there's one remaining levy archer holding there in this tile. These guys have got that nasty situation where they've got enemy to the right and left, so they've got an army morale of 2. They're heavy infantry, so they're up to 3. They have got adjacent enemies right and left. They're down to 2, but they're not levies, so they're down to 2. This guy, even though he's spent, is on 1, and they're all fine. Over on this tile, their army morale is 2. These guys are levy, that's down to 1, and then spent down to 0, but they're heavy infantry, so they're back up to 1. They're fine. This guy is fine. Okay, so it was just the collapse over in that area, and we carry on. Right, next, the next Athenian attack. Then where are they going to attack next? Let's do these boys in here. This will cost them 2 commands, so we'll spend 2 commands to attack there, and that will allow them a dice roll for bonus commands, and they get a 4, pushes them up to 5. Okay, so they've got an attack with a fresh hoplite, who will be on a +1 for lead unit and a +1 for a fresh lead unit, but he's not attacking levies, so he's on a +2, and then we've got 3 further follow-up attacks with no modifiers. So our fresh lead hoplite gets a 9 with a +2, that causes a hit. Okay, and then 3 follow-up attacks with no modifiers, a 4, a 7, and a 2. Nothing at all. Okay. We'd like to get rid of this cavalry because it's dangerous. It's dangerous. One of the reasons it's dangerous is because this cavalry and this group of units here is subjecting our units here to that same negative morale modifier. If we have to take that army morale check, these guys will all be on a -1 for having flanking units on the left and right. So we'd really like to get rid of that to avert that danger. So let's activate this hoplite for 1 command, for 1 command, and then let's give him a +1 on his die roll for another 2 commands, and that still leaves us enough for an activation and a bonus in here. So he's got +1 for being a lead unit, and +1 for the attack bonus we just gave him. That's +2, and he needs his target number is an 8 to hit heavy cavalry. So let's see what we can do. And that's a 7 +2 is 9, and that has just shattered that heavy cavalry. Okay. So the average heavy cavalry's been shattered, and that prompts another dice roll for the army morale, and that's a 3, and we can tell from that given that a 2 didn't rout stuff across the board, a 3 certainly isn't going to, so the Persians are sticking around, and this guy can advance after combat, I believe. Yes, he can advance after combat into here. And now we've got a command to activate in here, and then a command for a +1 bonus. We'll give it to a follow-up unit. We know the score here, so we've got 5 fresh units in here to attack with. The first one on a +3, and the remainder will be on +1s for attacking levies. Yeah, that's it. So So we'll give the bonus to our second unit, our first follow-up unit. So we'll go +3, +2, +1, +1, +1. So +3, a 9 + 3 is a 12. That's interesting. A 12 causes, that means we've exceeded our hit number by 3, and we have to, as a hoplite, make a follow-up attack which causes 2 hits. So we do that, we spend our lead unit, we cause 2 hits, and the levy unit has to take both 2 hits and is therefore shattered. Goes in the shattered pile. And now that there are 4 shattered Persian units, they're getting a -1 on their army morale. You get -1 for every 4 shattered units that you've got, and this starts to look quite grim. So they've just rolled a 3. They will have a -1 for having 4 shattered units and a -1 for the occupation of their centre tiles, and their overall army morale is now 1, even when they're rolling 3s. So then if we look in this tile, we've got heavy infantry. That's giving them +1, so they're on to 2, but then they are spent levies, and that's giving them a morale of 0 for the spent units. The levies are on 1, but the spent levies are on 0, and that means these 2 spent levy archers go in the routed area. And there are 2 remaining spent levies there. In this centre tile, what happens? We've got an army morale of 3 down to 1. They've got +1 for being heavy infantry. They're on 2. They've got -1 for having adjacent units either side. They're on 1. But they're not levies, so even the spent units have a 0 and they're fine, and there's nothing else of the Persians left on the board really to rout. That unit over there is going to be okay, because or is he? Yeah, he's heavy infantry, so he'll be on a 2, -1 for being a levy, and he'll be fine. Okay. So now we have got our +2 and 3+1 attacks into these 2 levy units here. And let's see how this goes. Our +2 attack, 8 + 2 is 10. That's going to cause a hit into the new lead unit, whichever one it is, doesn't really matter. And then 3+1s. 7 + 1 is 8, doesn't do anything. 7 + 1 is 8, doesn't do anything. 5 + 1, 6, doesn't do anything. And that is the end of the Athenian portion of turn 5. We're going to go into the Persian section now, and you can see there's not really a lot for the Persians left to do apart from dice off and see if they can cause any casualties. I mean, there's no manoeuvre left in this situation. There hasn't been for a while, but it's just they're going to collapse fairly soon. The Persians have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 units left on the board. Let's see if they should have had any more army modifiers for that, because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So they are now outnumbered 2 to 1 with the rout of those archers there, and that's going to give them another -1 on their army morale. Next time they have to make an army morale check, they're going to be doing it at -1 for 3 shattered units, -1 for the occupation of their centre zones, and -1 for being outnumbered 2 to 1 now on the battlefield. So their D3 army morale is going to be modified by a -3. So you can see this isn't going to last much longer. The Persians have basically one last throw of the dice to see if they can cause any casualties before something routs them, in turn 6. But let's give them their turn 5 then. And I'll just cut this off while I go and grab a coffee. So here at Marathon we're coming into the closing stages. I've adjusted the Persian fighting value down to its new value of 30, so they are getting 3 commands, and that's just about enough to activate in here, here, and just down here where they've got a couple of units still holding on. We'll activate we'll activate in the centre here first for a command, and we'll give the first guy a bonus as well for another command using our leader there, and that will allow us to roll the dice to see how many more bonuses we're going to get, and it's going to be a big fat 6, which is really good news. So we're back up to 7 commands. Fantastic. Okay, so we can spend some, I said in the centre here, didn't I? We can spend some commands on bonuses. We're going to take 1 to activate him, and we want to give him a bonus. That'll cost 3. We want to take 1 to activate him and give him at least a bonus. That'll cost 2, so that'll cost 5 of our commands. Okay, well let's give, oh no, we gave the first guy a bonus here. So we'll give the second guy a bonus as well for 2 more commands. So our first attack here is at +2 against the hoplites we're facing off against. And we've got a 7 + 2 is 9. Great. We'll make an all-out attack. We'll spend our archer, our lead archer, and we'll cause the final unit in here to get spent. And then we'll give another bonus. So for a 2 commands, so we'll give a fresh archer, and we'll work across here. We'll give a fresh archer a +1 on his attack. Get a 7, +1 is 8. And then we've got 3 more attacks, 2 fresh, and the last one will be spent. And these are unmodified. So 11 is a hit. And that's really interesting. That's going to give us shatter our first Athenian unit. And that is going to prompt an army morale check by the Athenians. Now they're not in trouble because firstly they're outnumbering the Persians 2 to 1, so they're getting a +1. And they haven't got 4 shattered units, so they're only a D3 +1 for their morale. They've got 4 army morale. They've got no levies, so they're not suffering from that penalty, so there's no need to go around the board and check their situation because they are all fine. They've got +1 bonus for being heavy infantry. If they're spent, -1. They've not got anywhere where they're flanked either side, and even if they did, their army morale's way high enough to cope with it. But you know, it's a moral victory for the Persians to have inflicted some more casualties, and now they've got, what did they have? I can't remember how many attacks they had left. I think we'd done the first one had hit, then we'd missed, the third one had hit. We've got 2 more flat die rolls, so we've got a 12. A 12. Wow. I've got to change the battery on the camera, unfortunately, but I'll come back. Back with a bit more charge in the battery then, just a little bit more, just to get us through this attack. Yeah, I can't remember whether I'd spent the commands. Yeah, I can't remember what I'd done with the commands. Oh well, I think we'd had 3. We must have spent 1, so we must have spent 1 and then spent 1 for a bonus and then re-rolled, and that's what's put us up to 5. Okay, I remember where I am again now. So this was my first area I was attacking. This unit here just rolled a 12, and that's interesting because that causes a hit, and then you can take a hit yourself for an all-out attack to cause another hit. So they're going to do that, and they're going to cause 2 hits. And that is going to be really unpleasant for the attacking Athenians, because the first hit is going to wipe out, shatter a unit, and the second hit is going to shatter a unit. So they're going to have 2 hoplite infantry shattered from that attack, and that's pretty messy. And the next thing that's going to happen is that they're going to have to take an army morale check. Now, you have to take, when you have 2 units killed, shattered by 1 attack, then you have to roll that many dice and take the worst result. The other thing that happens is that now, with those 2 units gone, they no longer outnumber the Athenians 2 to 1. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 units on the board to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So they're not quite at 2 to 1, so they don't get that +1 bonus anymore. So they've got to roll 2 dice, and they've got a 1 and a 3, so they have an army morale of 1, taking the worst value. Let's have to see what's adjusted, what it's adjusted by. They've not got twice as many friendly units. They haven't had 4 units shattered, they've only got 3. They haven't lost any generals. They aren't outnumbered 2 to 1, and their camp hasn't been occupied. There's no camps, so they're on a base 1. They've got no levy units. Heavy infantry except hoplite infantry adjacent to enemy hoplite infantry. Well, there's no adjacent enemy hoplite infantry on the board, so they've got no that. So all their units have got +1 for being heavy infantry. And where they're spent, they've got -1 for being spent, but you know that they're safe because they've got a base morale of 1, and they're all getting a +1 for being heavy infantry, and only the most minuses that they can get is a -1 for being spent. They could technically get -1s for having enemy units either side, but that's not the case anywhere on the board anymore. So their army morale is fine, or at least their army morale doesn't cause any more of their troops to flee or rout or withdraw or anything, as far as I can see from the modifiers. No, they're not going to have adjacent units left or right. So no, they're fine as far as that is concerned. What about this guy? He is on a 1, +1 for being heavy infantry, -1 for being spent. He's on a 1. He's fine. Okay, cool. And so there's the last attack from in here, then from a spent archer into that guy. Could wipe out everything in that zone if he hits. And he has. He's hit, and that guy is now shattered. And that is now 4 shattered units, and that is a -1 on the army morale. They only have to roll 1 dice now because they've just had 1 unit killed, and they have got a 3 for their army morale. It is modified by -1 for 4 shattered units, so it's down to 2. But as we just found out, 2 is enough for them. So there won't be any problems there. What we can do though, is advance our we can advance after combat here so that we're not sandwiched between 2 enemy units, and well, it will allow us to take the enemy key zone, although it will allow them to take ours. It's of dubious value, this, but we're going to do it anyway. So we are going to advance after combat in here. and just bump everyone forward out of the firing line, and we'll see if we can perhaps just run away from Athenian troops and prolong the agony here, and seize their key zone for a bit, which will improve the morale of the stragglers back here at least. The key zone counts for 2 centre zones as far as control is concerned, so we've been being penalised on our army morale by -1 for having these 2 occupied, but this would cancel it out. It would now be 2 apiece because this is worth double. Of course, if the Athenians move a unit in here, then they'll then have 2, 3, 4, because this one counts double against R2, and we'll be back where we started. We best move our leader with the rest of our troops, our commander with our troops as well. That would be a sensible idea. We could keep some troops in there if we fancied having them annihilated piecemeal, but I don't fancy that. So that's been mind-blowingly good result for the Persians. They're really good, and yeah, better than I've ever seen them do. As I say, I had 2 goes at this battle, never seen them accomplish something like that before. That's really good fun. Excellent. So now they've got 5 more commands, so they can spend a command to activate this guy, and then they're going to spend 2 to give him a +1 on his dice roll, and he's a lead unit because he's the only unit there, so he's got a +1, and they've given him a +1 attack bonus as well. That's the best they can do for him, and the reason they've done that is of course because they want to shatter another unit in here and prompt another army morale roll for the Athenians, and hope they get a terrible result and start causing trouble that way. So they've got a 10, and that with a +2 is a 12. Oh my god. That's great. So they will spend this unit to cause 2 hits, and that will shatter 2 units from there. Oh, this has just gone mental. So right, so there's 2 shattered units, and that means the Athenians have to roll 2d3 and take the worst of the worst of the results. So they've got a 1 and a 3, so they've got an army morale of 1, and they have 4 shattered units, so they have a net morale of -1. Wow. Sorry, they have a net morale of 0 because they've got an army morale of 1 with 4. For every 4 shattered units you get a -1. Do they outnumber 2 to 1? No, they certainly do not. So they have got a net army morale of 0, and this bunch of units here let's have a look. They are heavy infantry, so they have got 1, and they are spent, so they've got -1, and they are on 0s. Yep, the army morale is 0. They've got a +1 for being heavy infantry and a -1 for being spent. They are on 0. They are in a zone where units have been shattered, and they have all just panicked and routed. So this lot have all just routed. This is a turn up for the books, and exactly the kind of thing I wanted to see from the system. I would have been rather disappointed had the whole thing just been a non-stop whitewash of the Athenians just ploughing over the ploughing through the Persian army, and it's completely not happening like that at all. Well done, Levy Archer. I think you can advance after combat as well. So he's going to advance after combat there and retake his centre zone. Blimey. And now we've got, hello, you come to see the carnage. Yeah, come to see the carnage. We've got 2 commands left. One for a general activation in here and one for a +1 bonus. Let's do that. That will be our last 2 commands for the Persians, and we've got a lead unit with a +1 and another +1 for his bonus. So we've got a +2 and a flat 0 dice roll. We best do the right thing for the Athenians and actually put a fresh unit out front for them. I'm not attempting to commit suicide on their behalf. So we've got a +2 attack with this archer. He's got a 3, and the other archer has got a flat die roll and has got a 4, and they don't accomplish anything there. That was quite the turn, and the board is looking just mad. There's remnants of the Persian army here, and remnants of the Athenian army here and over in the corner there. So far from being the blowout it appeared, things have just gone fully crazy. I love it. Okay, let me adjust the God, I need to adjust and make sure we have the correct fighting values for each army. So I'm going to count up off camera and just come back and do that.